What's up, people? Welcome back. It's Kenneth here with StreamHomeLoan.com and 100 Years of Wealth. It's been a couple of weeks, been real busy with a couple of different things, so haven't made some content, but I'm back and I want to drop some video, some knowledge on you guys, just on a quick topic. A lot of the topics that I've spoke on and videos that I've made have kind of centered around this general topic, but I want to keep it very direct on this subject or in this video so that it's just super simple. How to buy your first home. That's the basicness of this video. So I've talked about different things like 100% financing and down payment assistance and stuff like that. And I'm going to touch on that just a little bit, but really just want to give you the basic information to get someone that is currently renting, has no idea about the buying process, from that point to understanding the basics of getting into a house. So want to kind of like remove as much of the smoke and mirrors and the confusion that comes along with that first step of buying a house. So first step is very simple. It starts with a pre-approval process. The pre-approval is where you speak with someone that is a loan professional like myself, and you find out what you could qualify for based on your scenario. When I say your scenario, your income, your credit, your assets. Your assets are obviously going to tell us how much you're able to put down on the property. Your credit's going to tell us your buying history and your credit history, obviously, and your income's going to indicate how much money you make. Those scenarios or that information will guide the person on the other end, the loan officer, to kind of give you the information on what programs would suit your scenario the best. There are programs out there where, traditionally speaking, you're going to provide proof of last 2 years of income and 2 years of history of employment in that same industry. It doesn't have to be the same job, but in that same line of work. And then we're gonna use that 2-year history along with current pay stubs showing what your income is if you're at a job, and if you're employed or if you're self-employed, they're gonna ask you for your tax returns along with like a year-to-date profit and loss statement in most scenarios. That's how we're gonna be able to say, okay, this is what they've been making and this is what their current income is as well. And then that will give the lender an ability to say, based on your income, then look at your credit, based on your credit and the liabilities, the monthly expenses that you have on your credit, you should be able to qualify for this amount. That's where it all starts. So there's many different loan programs out there. If you have an ability to make a monthly payment, there's probably a loan out there that works for you. In most scenarios, and I didn't want to like limit your qualifying ability to a job or having like some steady source of income on a monthly basis. It really comes down to your ability to make the payment, and different lenders look at that different ways. So for instance, we have programs that are completely asset driven, right? Assets meaning like, you know, the money you have in the bank or in some sort of account. And they're going to qualify you based on that. For example, there's a program called an asset depletion program where they just look at the idea of like, okay, this person has $100,000 in an account. If we divide that up by 30, I think the number is 39 months, because they want 3 years plus that month, the month that you're closing in, and like some calculation like that. But roughly they're looking for 3 years and then a little bit of extra regarding if you were to divide that income up on a monthly basis, divide that 100K up by the 39 months, that'll give them a certain number and they'll use it as your income on that particular program. So there's variations to those programs and things like that. But that tells you, in that situation, that person likely didn't have to verify an income source. All they had to do was verify their actual assets. So there's a lot of people out there that might be sitting on some cash and might, get chunks of cash throughout the year or every once in a while, but they have money, they have a good credit history, they have proven their ability to repay. They just don't have an actual job. Lenders understand that. And there's a particular lender and program that might work for that scenario. There's scenarios for people that don't have funds for a down payment. In those scenarios, you're obviously going to have to counteract the fact that you don't have your own down payment with some other strong factor, meaning like verifiable income. And in those scenarios, you have the ability to get the down payment provided to you by the lender in the form of a silent second, or, sometimes there's grants out there, but most of them are going to be like a silent second mortgage that goes on the title of the property. You pay it back at a later date when you refinance or sell your property. So there's programs like that. So I'm just not diving in too far, but just kind of touching on the basic areas where I think a lot of people will just stay out of the market because they don't understand that, there's programs that'll give you your down payment. Simple as that. There's loan programs on the front end, the primary mortgage that's going to allow you to go up to 96.5% of the value of the property. And then there's programs on the back end that'll give you that 3.5%, providing you that 100% financing if you can benefit from it. So it doesn't necessarily have to be someone that doesn't have their own down payment. Maybe you'd rather use the down payment assistance funds and keep your funds in your pocket. It's doable. So keep that in mind. I just wanted to make that quick, short, and sweet. Most people out there, if you have the ability to make a monthly payment, there's probably a program that you can fit into. Maybe you have to make some adjustments in your scenario, improve your credit score, or create some additional savings, because a lot of those programs where they're not going to verify your income, they're going to be more asset driven, but like they're going to want to see money in the bank, like that month's worth of payment in the bank times 6 usually, or something like that. So keep that in mind. But the main thing is really, if you're in a position where you've been paying rent, you have like a history of making a payment on a certain amount, you feel comfortable there, consider the idea of looking at buying a house. Consider, talk to someone in your local area, DM me, leave a message in the comments, I'll respond back. Run some numbers on properties in your area and what you're seeing for sale, and just kind of like run an estimate on what the payment is. That's a good thing for, that's a good reason why Zillow has been very popular, because a lot of people can go there, and even if they're not really looking to buy at the time, they can see purchase prices and estimates of payments and estimates of loan scenarios and things like that, which adds information. But I think there's still like a little gap of knowledge on what people think, or if people understand that, hey, maybe that's not your particular scenario, but maybe there's another scenario that can work for you. A lot of times I think people will get certain portions of information and just think that that's it, when lending is a very, very vast industry with a lot of different options, so the better you know those options and the more you're aware of what's out there, the more likely you can kind of push yourself into one of those boxes, even if it's not right this moment. You find out something like, oh crap, all I have to do is save up 6 months worth of a mortgage payment and I'm able to get into this condo or get into this house. And then you're able to benefit from all the things that we've talked about in regards to equity and growth and growth of value, and you paying down the mortgage while the property value is going up, things like that. Some interest write-offs on your taxes, stuff like that. Later on, potentially renting the property out after you live there for a while, moving on to another property, or if there's equity built up, selling that property, taking that chunk and putting it on something else, or just staying there, and instead of renting and having your payment continually go up, you're actually able to continually see your payment go down, as long as you're not obviously borrowing against the property, which is also something that's beneficial. You have your property increase in equity, you use your home as an asset, as a financial tool, you pay off other high interest debt. But I would always advise, look at it, see if it's something that's feasible for you right now. Be open to areas adjacent to the area that maybe you desired. Let's say like in that particular area that you really would like, maybe it's just a little too expensive. Well, the reality of it is that most likely you'll probably see that continue to go up. So instead of just completely missing out, you would probably want to try to get in where you fit in. Find an area where you could be comfortable, where it is a little bit more affordable. Maybe it requires you to put a little, TLC into the property, but that's really always where there's going to be the most equity gain. If you go into a property where it's already complete, it's already up to the current standards, there's really no value add. That's like an investor term, haha. Value add, that means that that property actually has a space for you to add value. It has an old kitchen, you add a new kitchen, 50K improvement that costs you 20K, or things like that. So recently I actually did some work on a house that we're planning on selling, and probably spent like 10K on upgrades to landscaping, sprinkler, new sod, new grass, and new paint all around the property, and new paint on the interior. And I just think that those basic upgrades, adding to the curb appeal, made the ability to sell that property go up by probably $70,000, to be realistic with you. Maybe a little bit less, if depending on how quickly we're trying to sell. But point being is that find a property that you can add some value to, and you'll most likely see that it's going to improve your overall value of the property, and be a great financial situation for you, or a beneficial financial situation for you. So my advice: try to find a crib, try to find a house, but before you do that, find out what you qualify for, run the numbers with a professional. That way they can tell you, hey, look, your payment's likely to be $2,200 with your taxes and insurance included, and that covers a property of around 400K. So now when you are on Zillow, Redfin, Realtor.com, looking at just different properties, you're like, shit, that's super doable for me. Or at 2,200, I was comfortable. This payment would actually be 2,000. That's even more. You know what I mean? Like, it just gives you that ability to have an answer to your question, as opposed to kind of floating through, just wondering if it's doable, what the numbers look like, what's it going to cost me, all that. Get an answer, so that you can, jump on something when you see it. When you see something that you like, if you see a property out there you want to be able to take advantage of and sell it and pass by, because these properties, the value is not stagnant. You know what I mean? Like, even in California, we're here in Los Angeles, but it used to be like, the idea was like, oh, you can head an hour outside of Los Angeles and save a lot of money. Shit didn't change. You know what I mean? Like, now you got to go really far out of LA. You gotta go really, really far out of the city to see really any big difference in payments or in property values. There's definitely a difference, as you head from the main metropolis, as you just get a little bit further out. The further you get to the beach, it's more expensive, but the further you get more inland, then yes, it's a little bit less expensive. But I'm talking, like, if a normal single family residence in like South Los Angeles, which is like, considered like it was a little hood and it's developing or whatever. If a normal single family residence in those areas, like the nice areas, are selling now for $900,000, some areas or some houses $1 million if they're all done up, and higher. If that's happening here for a normal house, even in, let's say, La Puente, Montebello, West Covina, going further out there, Diamond Bar, you have these little suburbs and these little pockets that are really nice too. And if they're nice, they're going to be up there too. The prices are going to be $700,000, $800,000, $900,000, $1 million more, depending on the community, the property size, etc. But I recently sold a property all the way out in Rancho Cucamonga, which used to be, once again, an area where it was known to be like, oh, you can find a deal out there. You can get a lot lower price out there. The property we went into escrow, we sold it at what was it, $830,000. That's in Rancho. That's an hour and a half from, well, maybe like an hour and 10 minutes with no traffic, hour and 15 minutes with no traffic. But with traffic, we're getting 2 hours out there, to get from Los Angeles to there. So my point is just that the old idea that you can just kind of hold off and you'll find your price range, or you can go outside the city and get a low price property, just doesn't hold true anymore, because of the fact that people have the ability, and my opinion is that people have the ability to work from home. So people that were tied to the cities are no longer tied there. They still have their same income, but they're able to move wherever they want to. And a lot of people are like, no, I don't want to buy a fixer-upper in the city for $1 million. I'd rather go out and get something at least newer, out in one of those further out areas, and make, and pay a little bit more. You know what I mean? So, or no, sorry, pay a little less, but have something new and just drive a little further if I have to, or just not be in the city. You know what I mean? Like, people start to kind of get over the idea, like, I don't have to live in the city, but that's the thing. And then on the other side, the people that want to live here, it drives up the property values very high here, because you do have people that are willing to pay for that because they don't want to live outside the city. So it's just that crazy market. But point being, while you're listening, like and subscribe. You know, do your boy that favor, like and subscribe, comment, ask any questions. I'm here to help. But yeah, main point on this video is that if you buy a house, you're likely gonna win, no matter where you're at. If you're in LA, New York, one of my agents, he bought a crib out in Utah. We were just talking about how he, made $100,000 within, I think it's 4 or 5 years or so on that property, maybe less. But it was a win for him, and it was because he owned it, he was paying it down, and the nature of property is that it's going upward because of many different factors, inflation being one of them, but then also just population growth. Unless you're in an area that's declining in population and becoming less of a destination, which some places are because they were just, whatever happened to their city, their infrastructure wasn't good, they didn't have an income source or like an employment base, and things kind of phased out, and that happens. But in most areas where you have like an established population, it's growing. There's just over time, there's just a little bit of growth happening every year, every so often, or every time increment, and that's gonna drive incomes up, especially with people being able to work from home and make money on the internet. More people have more money. That the things that have scarcity are going to go up in price. So just trying to drop some gems on you guys. Hopefully I can help you get into some properties, make some decisions that put some funds in your pocket, and set you up for the future. So like and subscribe. Appreciate you guys. 100 Years of Wealth, streamhomeloan.com.